Is there a minimum height for a flanker is supposed to be? No, absolutely not. Flankers can be, so this is something that speaks to me because I am 6'1". People will say, "Oh, you must be 6'3" because everyone always lies about their height. But I'm actually a solid 6'1". And when I was a younger player, quite a few times it was recommended to me that for people who said, "Oh, you should probably consider if you want to play at the highest level or higher level as possible, you should consider playing hooker because you don't quite have the height for flanker." But at the end of the day, if you're dynamic enough, if you can make it work, you can like play whatever position you want and enjoy it. Save maybe being a 7-foot tall prop or a 5'5" lock. Maybe those aren't going to work. But outside of that, like Mike Phillips was a world-class scrum half at like 6'4". And then you've got Quagga Smith, who is under 6 foot and is a world-class 7 or 8. And there are a number of other players that aren't very tall. Particularly, I mean, if you look at England, they've got Sam Simmons. If you look at, well, actually all the French guys are huge, but Aussies always seem to crank out some guys. Obviously, Hooper isn't that big. And you've got loads of other players, and those are just examples to demonstrate the point that there is no minimum height. As a coach, you would have to factor that in if you're picking a shorter flanker on 1 or shorter flanker or number 8. You might have to pick a taller flanker or number 8 to begin with to counteract that, just so that you can run a really effective lineout, or you can have a really dynamic lineout. There's lots of different options, but all of that is to say is that there's no. Well, firstly, there's no minimum height. Secondly, there's nothing that you can do to train for your height. And thirdly, if that's your position, I would just own it and make sure, as a shorter flanker, something that you must do is be really, 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 really fit. You have to be just as fit as possible, be a terrier, go around the pitch, be everywhere, be at every single breakdown, be nice and fast so that you can get around the pitch, so you can be dynamic and you can prove yourself. People will still potentially try and put you at hooker, but if you want to play flanker, if you want to enjoy your rugby, that's where you want to play to enjoy your rugby. There is no minimum height that you have to be. You just have to be really, really fit. And that means being aerobically fit. That means reading the game really well so that you can get to the breakdowns properly. That means working on your speed and being dynamic around the pitch. And that also means potentially two different roads that you can go down is being really dynamic with your carry. So you're explosive and you can explode into contact and be a really dynamic carrier, or you be a really smart carrier where you can sort of link the forwards and the backs, which is a lot of modern teams now will look to do that with they'll look to do a couple forwards that really play that link role well, and it can be any position. It can be prop to number 8, where you're that sort of pivot position where you can carry hard or you can link to the backs as well. So that would be my advice. There is no minimum height.